Well, Australia's population ballooned by a record 660,000 people in the year to September, as nearly 550,000 migrants joined us from overseas. And it's showing no sign of slowing down anytime soon. Big Australia is getting even bigger, with the number of temporary visas issued by the Albanese government hitting a record high in the first quarter of the year, meaning 1 in every 30 people in Australia in March 2024 was on either a student visa or a graduate visa. Joining me now is Leith Van Onselen, co-founder and chief economist of Macro Business. Leith, always good to speak with you. Thanks for joining us. So how many visas have actually been issued?
Yeah, look, these numbers are absolutely off the charts, Danica. So the Department of Home Affairs has released data to March on temporary student visa holders, and we've got about 2.8 million temporary visa holders in the country as of March. And once you exclude visitors, which is probably the more fairer comparison, we've got just over 2.4 million. Now, that is up around 300,000 year on year, and it's up almost 500,000 from the pre-pandemic peak. So these are numbers that are completely off the charts. We've got records broken just across nearly every single visa category. And obviously, as you said, the student visas and graduate visas, we've got about 860,000 of them in the country. That's about 1 in 30 Australians. And temporary visas as a total, if you exclude visitors, roughly 1 in 11 people in Australia right now is on one of those temporary visas. So these numbers are just ridiculous. And what they basically say is that the record high net overseas migration that we saw last year seems to seemingly carried into the new year, and we're still running at migration numbers that are close to record levels.
Well, you're right. These numbers are absolutely off the charts. How much longer can Australia afford to keep this up for?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't absolute, revolt in the streets about this, given that, what it's doing to the rental market. So obviously, we are in a unprecedented rental crisis here. We've got rental vacancy rates at record lows. We've got 10 cities forming in places like Brisbane, in the Queensland Premier's own electorate. We've got rents going through the roof, obviously, and people being forced to live in group housing. Now, that's really the tip of the spear of this problem. It's the most visible problem. It's the rental crisis. And unfortunately, if they keep running population growth at a level that's higher than we can build homes, the rental crisis is just going to keep getting worse, as will traffic congestion and all those other things.
Well, this is a thing. I mean, home values are still rising across the country, and record immigration is putting upwards pressure on home prices in most markets. Where in particular is this having an impact, Leith?
Oh, it's having an impact across the board. I mean, pretty much, we've got rents soaring across the nation, and we've also got home prices that are going up across the nation. Now, presently, at this point in time, it's actually most vicious in the smaller major capitals. So we're talking about, Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide. But Sydney has also seen huge growth since the start of the pandemic. Melbourne saw less because its population shrunk at the beginning of the pandemic and its economy's in a funk. But by and large, this migration story has pushed up home prices, it's pushed up rents, it's made housing less affordable for everybody.
Now, this is interesting because data released today by the Paris-based Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development has revealed that Australians endured a 7.6% increase in their average tax rates last year, Leith. Are you surprised?
Look, I'm not. Australia's income tax rates are not indexed to inflation. So, that's the opposite of what happens in the US, where income tax rates get adjusted to inflation. This is one of the reasons why Australia suffered the largest decline in real household disposable income in the world last year. So Australia's real household per capita disposable income fell by 6% last calendar year. That was the biggest fall in the world. And there was 3 principal reasons for it, Danica. We had lower wage growth than just about anywhere else in the world. We also obviously lost more of that wage growth in income taxes, as per this data. And finally, Australia has one of the highest concentrations of variable rate mortgages in the world. So what this meant was that as interest rates went up, our households got hit harder than just about anywhere else in the world because our mortgages got adjusted upwards. So it's a real triple whammy for households, and it's the reason why Australian households are doing tougher than anywhere else, who've suffered the biggest income declines.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly no surprises. Now, just before I let you go, an economist has today predicted that the RBA will be forced to hike rates 3 times before the end of the year. Do you agree with this forecast?
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, that forecast came from Warren Hogan. He's a smart bloke. He's got a pretty good track record on this sort of stuff. So you never discount him. But I don't think they will hike 3 more times. But gee, I hope not. That's all I can say. If it happens, I think Australia will experience a very, very nasty recession. My tip is that the RBA will keep rates on hold. I've been saying since late last year that they'll probably cut in the second half of this year. That's now a 50-50 call. If they do cut, it'll be at the very end of the year, perhaps early next year. But I don't see 3 rate hikes this year. No.
Fingers crossed not. As you said, it would be an absolute disaster. Leith Van Onselen, great to speak with you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Danica.